Look, there's no easy way to say this. 7 more Blockbusters just closed. You're officially the last one on Earth.
I don't love the pattern that's starting to emerge. Hello?
Oh my God, what a stunt!
Oh, hey there. Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, and most importantly, I want to make it clear that if anybody is able to, if I happen to pass by somebody pulling a lever and like a comically large shipping container crushes me, I hope whoever pulled that lever gives my eulogy, which is what it looks like Netflix is doing. Too early, which is what it looks like Netflix is doing to Blockbuster. They're the ones what kill. Okay, all right, now I just feel patronized. Bryce, what is this movie?
So that is a series, actually, called Blockbuster, coming to Netflix. It is starring Randall Park, and it's about the last Blockbuster in America. Great night bonus listeners know our pitch about what that show should be about. That's coming to Netflix November 3rd. It's a series. It looks like a movie, but it is a single camera comedy, it looks like. That's coming to Netflix.
Based on a true story.
Technically.
Well, I mean, mathematically, there had to be one that was last.
Could have been a bunch go down at once, but that's not the way it went. Let's welcome in someone who has probably never been to the last Blockbuster on Earth, however you say it. Merrill Barr, welcome back.
I'm back. Hey, let me just say, and I tweeted about this. This is not in any way a spoiler. It's just a funny production note. I watched all my screeners for Blockbuster over the weekend. I will expend no judgment on the show. The one interesting note is because it's produced by Universal Television, all of the movies in the background on the rack and on the posters inside the store are all Universal titles because that's all they could clear.
Yeah,
So,
that tracks. That sounds like Hollywood
sense.
to me.
Yeah.
You got to come over to the YouTube side where we're punk rock. We wear T-shirts without clearance.
Well, here's how we go from that. Independent podcasters like Brian and I sometimes marry people who work for NBC and give us health insurance.
Boy,
and
that
NBC is part of our primary target.
Okay, smooth.
NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell said Peacock added more than 2 million paid subscribers in Q3 to reach 15 million total. When you count free viewers, because the 15 million is the paid subscribers, that rises up to 30 million. That is a rise of 3 million over last quarter. That's a number that's at least going in the right direction. Shell attributed the increase to getting exclusive rights to lots of NBC shows that were previously available on Hulu, as well as bringing over sports like baseball, the National Football League, Premier League Soccer, bunch of sports stuff contributed as well. Shell repeated his comments made by his boss, Comcast CEO Brian Roberts, that NBC would love to own Hulu, though he knows Disney isn't interested in selling, but he sure would like to get up the price that Disney is going to pay his boss, Brian Roberts, to buy Comcast out of their stock. That's great for them. It means that some people value the stuff that moved off Hulu enough to move to Peacock, but I know what lots of you are thinking. How do I keep up on all of this? I can't afford it all. I don't care how many people Peacock has or why. I want my stuff for cheap in one service. Well, the industry is starting to wonder what you will pay for. Good Old Publishers Clearinghouse and Evan Shapiro teamed up and surveyed 15,000 people in the U.S. about what they wanted to pay for. 39% said they would pay for movies and scripted TV show. Don't think that's a shocker. That leads to maybe a little lower of a number than you might have expected, but not surprising that it's way in front of the number 2, which is 12% said sports, although I think that's going to go up as more sports goes to streaming. 11% said music and podcasts, both. So Spotify, I guess. And 7% said gaming. In light of all this, as we are all starting to see people move to paying for TV and watching TV on streaming, even if they're watching it for free with ads, we're starting to see the guides to the streaming services worth your money. So let's all get past the feelings that you have to subscribe to everything. We keep telling you, you don't. You can't watch it all. Let's narrow down what's worth our dollars. Brian, what do you think of Engadget's recommendations here?
I think it's a fine rundown of all the top players. I was impressed. Much like you either want to be the gold medal winner or the bronze medal winner. You don't want to be silver. So kudos to Netflix for being number one on their list. Kudos for Shudder for getting the bronze medal. Good job for being in the club, everybody else. They have some beef with Prime Video's kludginess, but as a desktop viewer, I maybe I'm the only one who truly loves the X-ray feature. I love seeing that guy and jiggling the mouse and suddenly instantly knowing where I know them from.
They have X-ray on the apps too.
Yeah,
they've got it on the
Apple
TV and the
stuff.
phone version too.
Yeah, sure. But they specifically were dinging the service, Amazon Prime, for not having a good interface, while I think it's quite good. The Cordkillers at gmail.com. But in this case, the thing that is most interesting to me is that the presence of this article implies that we are moving from a growth mindset where you feel like the sky's the limit, you have unlimited attention, everybody can grow. And for a time we could, because everything over-the-top services were growing from was stealing attention away from the radio, piracy, broadcast television, cable television, all those things. But now we really have hit saturation where everything is over the top, and now it truly is a zero-sum game. I want to say there was some study that showed over some number of years, I think it's 10 years, like basically looking at screens has doubled, and now we no longer can just think of like, add this. It's like for every moment your eyeballs are looking at one thing, they're not looking at something else. And that to me is, number one, a sign of maturity, but also possibly a troubling indicator going forward. I don't know. I leave it to you guys to give hot takes.
The thing I find most interesting about these numbers, 39% is the highest number. 39% of the people surveyed will pay for scripted movies and television. Not a single one of these items is over 50%. That leaves over 50% of the total survey amount, which in theory would indicate at the very least everyone in the United States. So half of the United States is not interested in paying for anything. To me, that's the more interesting number. To
clarify, the actual publishing clearinghouse graphic shows a single pizza pie that is divided. So I suspect the question was asked in such a way where it's like you had to pick one that you would do.
Which
before
are you
all
most
others.
inclined to pay for?
So in this case, looking at the total pie of everybody, if you had to pick one, 40% would be scripted TV.
Okay.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which is a
really
little bit of a
changes-
weird maximalist kind of way.
I didn't catch that. My apologies to the audience. So actually, that really changes my outlook on this whole thing, because that presents a false dichotomy of the real problem, which is, are you willing to pay at all? Right? It's definitely that a big question is, if you're willing to pay, you're willing to pay for. Because to me, if you're surveying people and asking them, are you willing to pay? I think that we've ingrained in people's minds, you have to pay for movies and TV, or it's rather scripted. You don't necessarily have to pay for sports if you're a fan of your local team, because your local team usually has a deal with a local broadcaster, particularly when it comes to the major team, the major players, football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. So it's a wishy-washy question. Now, that said, I do think that we're entering a phase of not only people realizing that they don't have to pay for everything, but that there actually is a lot you can do without the word is legally. There are legal ways to stream a lot of things that people like for free, right? AVOD services are growing. They're maybe the growth market of the next decade. And I think that it's really interesting that we started this whole conversation with Peacock, because Peacock this season moved all the NBC shows off Hulu and onto Peacock. And to me, I think they made a very unwise move in doing that. Not the move from Hulu to Peacock, but not using it as an opportunity to bolster Peacock's AVOD free tier, which has kind of been lackluster since they launched it. Not in terms of the content it offers, but just they aren't really pushing people towards it when it's probably the one thing they have over every other competitor in their tier of streamer brand sake.
Well, so think of it this way. If we were to take the inverse, the statement of if I'm going to pay for one thing, it's going to be movies and scripted TV, 39%. The inverse of that is 61% of people are essentially saying, outside of my favorite thing, I will tolerate ads for movies and scripted TV, which does indicate, to your point, Merrill, that there's a very wide, large market for the AVOD space for Peacock to move into.
Yeah. And I think this number gets different if you're telling people, pretend you don't have cable or broadcast anymore. Or if we get to a world where sports by default is on streaming. We're in a world now where sports is on streaming, but a lot of people don't realize it's there or are already subscribing to cable, so they don't care that it's there. We are going to get to a world where sports is going to be on streaming. And in that world, it would make perfect sense for Peacock to be like, yeah, yesterday's episode of an NBC show shows up on the free tier. You want the back catalog, you want sports, you got to pay. Because I think sports will jump in front of movies and TV show once sports is on streaming, especially because of what Merrill's saying. You can get lots of movies and TV shows for free from Tubi and places like that.
I think the other thing is, CBS has a stacking deal with Pluto because they're both in the Viacom, or rather the Paramount Global umbrella. All the most recent 5 episodes of any CBS primetime show is on Pluto, right? That's an example of where they're doing it. One network is doing it. They're doing it now. They're doing well. That's kind of what I need to see for sports as well. I think that, and CBS might actually end up being the first one to do it because they already have a lot of that in place with local affiliates for Paramount Plus. I think that when it comes to local sports, the local sports need to start being on streaming for free for local viewers. When that happens, I think we'll start seeing then it's like, oh, well, I'm here. You know what? I also would like to, I'll pay, you know what? I also want to catch the game that's a few states over. Yeah, I'll pay for that. But I don't know if people are going to be willing to make the transition for the local teams again. This is only about local teams. I don't know if people are going to be willing to make the transition of going from free to pay. Now, I know for some major markets, it's already a thing, like Yankees only being on, I think it's Yes. And then I think it was Tom, correct me, Dodgers was exclusive to Spectrum.
But
right?
all the local baseball and hockey and basketball have a local cable-oriented broadcaster. It's either owned by Bally or, in those 2 cases that you talked about, there are individual networks that are kind of co-owned by multiple people. Spectrum owns Spectrum Sportsnet LA.
But the games are available free over the air as well.
No,
correct?
They're not.
No,
not at all.
Okay, so we're kind of there. It's going to be, I don't know. We'll see how it. I think football will be the big one, right? Because football, that is aired locally on all the local networks. So I'll be curious to see how that all shakes out.
Yeah, I think Apple TV is doing something really interesting, and people don't realize it. It kind of came to light a little bit with the Aaron Judge stuff. Apple TV Plus you pay for, but Apple TV Plus also has been showing baseball games that you don't pay for. They're just free, ad supported. You just need the Apple TV app. Apple's saying it's most valuable to get you to sign up for the Apple TV app and download that. We will give you the game for free and make some money off of the ads, hoping that once you have the app, you're using it and decide, oh, I'm going to sign up and pay for an Apple TV Plus subscription, and even more so, get an iPhone, get a Mac, something like that. But I think you're going to see this break down into two ways. You're absolutely right. You're going to see the HBO Maxes of the world say, hey, you want the game, you got to pay for HBO Max. And you're going to see Apple TV on the other end of the spectrum say, hey, we're going to stream it. We're going to make it available for free. You just have to use our app to get it.
Yeah, and I think there's a strong value to demystifying an app. If you can get over the hurdle of getting somebody to download a thing or just familiarize themselves with it, a small business example, sometimes there's a free digital download that we want to do on our online store, and so I will price it as a $0 item, so they at least have to visit the store. They have to check out, even though it's for no dollars and they don't give a credit card or anything. Now it's less mysterious to go to this scamstuff.com or what have you.
Yeah, sports is going through its worst stage of the transition to streaming. We've kind of gotten over the hump. It's not perfect yet, but we've gotten over the hump with movies and TV shows where pretty much anything that's new, you know it's going to show up at streaming at some point. There might be a theater window. It might jump from service to service sometimes, so you kind of know where it's going. Whereas in the past, we didn't know. Sports is all over the place. Some of it's not available from streaming. Some of it's available for streaming, but people don't realize that it is. Some of it is only available on streaming, and people get upset because they're used to having everything available on cable, and when it's only on Amazon or it's only on Apple, they get bent out of shape because they don't want to have to try something new. So it's going to be a while before sports gets over that hump as well.
I wonder if we'll start seeing, and this is specifically because of sports, I wonder if we'll start seeing the equivalent of day passes for streaming, where it's like, I really want to watch that one game tonight. Apple, can I pay for a day? Like, I don't want to pay for you for a month. Can I have a day of
Sports-wise, that's
access?
coming from the leagues. You can do that with the leagues. The only problem is you still have these stupid blackout rules for your local market, so you can only do it for teams that are outside your market.
Right.
But I expect that may come in the future as streaming gets sports. They're more savvy on how this works and can work with the league apps. For instance, ESPN Plus just took over the NHL app, and all the NHL games are in ESPN Plus now. So it makes it easy for Disney to offer some kind of free pass or something like that.
Something transition, patreon.com/Cordkillers.
We give people a free pass every episode, Brian.
That's right, Tom. Head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. Keep us loud, live, and independent, bringing you the news that you need to watch what you want, when you want, on whatever dang device you choose. You get your own RSS feed. You get exclusive access to our special After Talk segment. And more importantly, you warm our hearts because we have cold, desiccated stone hearts.
Yeah.
And they're slightly warmer only by money.
Oh, slightly.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
the
we've
more
never,
money, the
we've never
warmer
had
they
a
get,
lot of
Bryce.
money. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's run this scientifically. Here's a blinded test. However much money we've ever made before, what if we 10x'd it, and then we'll tell you how it feels? How about that?
Yeah. Do it for science. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's talk about how to watch. We were just talking about theatrical windows and the fact that has been kind of changed, if you will. There's certainly not a 90-day window for every movie anymore. One of the big stumbling blocks was Netflix. Netflix insisted, we'll do like a week or something for awards consideration, but we're not going to do much more. We're not going to do the 90-day window. And the theatrical owners, especially AMC, were like, Netflix either has to come to the table with us and give us an exclusive, or we'll never show a Netflix movie in any of our theaters. Well, we passed the Rubicon, if you will. Netflix has agreed with 3 major U.S. theater chains, AMC, the most important one, and Regal and Cinemark, which are the other 2 big ones, to show Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, in theaters for a limited exclusive run. So it's not every one of the theaters in the chain. It's 600 theaters, though, so it's a good chunk of them. They will get a sneak preview run of that movie, Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, from November 23rd, Thanksgiving weekend, through November 29th. Then, here's the interesting twist. It will not be available to watch anywhere except BitTorrent for the next month until it premieres on Netflix December 23rd. So it goes into the theaters for a week-long run, then it's gone from the theaters for a month.
This was inevitable. It was always going to happen. This is the right movie for it to happen with because it's full of stars, right? This is like every star you can think of, a star that you like, who you might be interested in going to.
Is he in it?
Probably. I don't know. Maybe.
Hey, it's me. Hey, don't put an onion in me. Oh.
So
My knives are all out.
wait, Bryce, can you do your Jack Black again, please?
No, I just did it like.
So the other thing, and this is the number I think is actually very important, 600 theaters, for all intents and purposes, is the whole country. Right? It just means that it's not showing in multiple screens in every multiplex, but it's available in almost every market where people go watch movies in some capacity. And it likely means that every screen will have people in it. Every screening will have people there watching it. Also the right move. And I think this is how AMC is testing the waters with Netflix. It's like, look, I think look, the Netflix movies are not getting smaller. Their budgets are getting higher. And they are making more and more of the types of movies that people would go to the theater to see. And it makes sense to be at this point.
Counter argument, totally not inevitable. Just like it was not inevitable that the Titanic had to crash. They could have avoided the iceberg. Instead, I perceive this as we are in a desert of high quality movie releases. When is the last time any of us have been to the movie theater? I have looked to see, I was begging, like, just any good movie that causes me to go across the street to the movie theater where I can have a beer and eat my popcorn and take my kids and all that stuff. And I ain't seen nothing. And that, the bottom of the barrel got so low that something that was a guaranteed smash hit for Netflix, they're like, fine. We also know this will do well at the movie theaters. AMC, let's do this.
I thought it was going to take longer. I figured at some point theaters will get so starved they'll come to the table with Netflix, and or Netflix will get so starved because they run into rough waters, which they have started to recently, that they would come to the table. I didn't think it would happen this Thanksgiving. It's a Thanksgiving miracle. I think it is a combination of Netflix running into rougher waters faster than they thought, and the theaters acknowledging what Brian just eloquently pointed out, which is we ain't got no movies that people want to see. So we need you. They needed each other, and that's when these things happen. When the sides both need each other, they get over. These are companies. They're not emotional. They throw all that stuff out. That's all for public consumption and leverage and bargaining. Once they actually need each other, they come to an agreement pretty quickly. And I think this is the thing we're not talking about is the most intriguing part of this is the Netflix, like, well, what if you get it basically a month earlier? Like we'll give it to you a month early, but you don't get to run it the whole time. And the theaters are like, yeah, we make most of our money in the opening week anyway. So sure, especially with a movie like this, that's fine.
And I want the movie experience, and I want the smug feeling of exclusivity of seeing something, even if it's a week, the delay could be 1 week and I'd be happy to go pay $50 to take my kids and get pizzas or whatever.
Here's a thought. Are you going to talk about that movie in that month? Because I don't know if I'm going to the theater until it comes out on Netflix
because of spoiler culture.
I'll be nice. Because you're right.
I will.
It is interesting that it's a whodunit, and it does raise that interesting question of spoiler troubles.
But when you talk up a movie that's a whodunit, you generally don't talk about the ending anyway, unless people have already seen it. So the effect that they want is Brian to come into Bryce like, man, I can't tell you why, but that movie was so great. You got to watch. Oh,
not the tenor of those conversations, but okay.
Oh no, that's definitely how I am.
I need to push back on something. There's not a bereft of movies to see. There may be bereft of movies you want to see, Brian, and you, Tom, but there's not a bereft of movies. Literally, Smile.
I'm just going on the box office receipts, not on my own personal
literally,
opinions.
this weekend, Smile dropped only 18%. Right, it's now a $50 million grosser, and that's a horror movie. Like, people are going. Like, Woman King did extremely well, and I went and saw that 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like, there's absolutely movies that people are going to the theater to see now, particularly smaller movies, movies that maybe weren't doing as hot pre-pandemic. And again, let's not forget we're in the year.
So
of
you
Top
don't think
Gun,
the theaters are in trouble or feeling any pressure at all? You think they just made this agreement out of the niceness of their hearts?
No. I think they are absolutely they're coming out of the pandemic haze. I think that it made them rethink a lot of their business strategy. And is every movie doing as well as they were pre-pandemic? Absolutely not. And would this have happened? Here's the question. Does this happen without a pandemic? I think the answer is no. I do believe that the pandemic fueled a lot of this, right? But that said, I do believe it was inevitable because Netflix wants their movies in theaters, and Netflix movies are continually a cultural driver. They do extremely well in the metrics. Now, the real question is, can every Netflix movie be as well received as potentially Glass Onion will? Would people have gone to the theater for Red Notice? I don't know. Would they have gone to the theater for The Gray Man? I don't know. Will they go to the theater for Glass Onion? Probably. Especially because
I have an answer to that question, that speculation. The first movie you mentioned, was it a sequel?
No.
Was the second one a sequel?
No.
Okay, but this third one, it's a sequel to a mega successful first movie, right?
Yes.
Right.
I don't know. It seems like a lot of people feel like there was a box office slump at the end of this summer, but your mileage may vary. I still hold that the theaters are not seeing the money that they want, even with the adjustment for a post-lockdown world and living with COVID and all of that. So I think there's pressure on the theaters to say, we really need to bring these numbers up. Let's do something with Netflix that we might not have done otherwise.
And again, I'm not going to say that movies are bad. They're just specialized. You know, like I'm not going to take my kids to go see Smile. It's a scary movie, right? And
right.
You know, my wife would be not interested. I'm not going to take my wife to Lyle Crocodile. You know, it says I'm not going to go see that. She'll be
scared. She's scared of crocodiles.
But I think we had a bit of a sorting mechanism where your AAA blockbusters, which normally we would be just maggoty with, either got dumped off into over-the-top streaming services or got theatrical releases during the summer while the sun was shining, years after the movies were completed.
Yeah, I think this is significant, though. I think this is a significant mark, no matter how you look at it, and it opens the door for more of this. I am curious what Netflix is going to do with a movie next. Up until now, it goes into the landmark theaters in New York and LA, so it can get award consideration for at least a month. Maybe it'll get 2 to 3 weeks if it's got Scorsese behind it. Now we're going to see AMC, Regal, and Cinemark learn, okay, this is exactly how much we can make on a Netflix release. They may look at that and go, not nearly enough. Forget it. We'll never do it again. My guess is they'll look at it and say, hey, okay, so let's try this kind of movie. Let's try that kind of movie. And we'll see them experiment more with these kind of release methodologies of like, what if we do a 2-week exclusive? What if we do a 4-day run? I don't know. Maybe they'll put more TV shows into theaters and give exclusive early looks at episodes. I'll be interested to see what they try.
To me, going off what Brian said about the fact that Glass Onion is a sequel, if Extraction 2 goes to theaters, that will be a bigger sign to me that the theaters and Netflix are doing a lot more work together, because the Extraction,
it's a good one.
One, it was a Netflix original through and through, but was super successful. Everyone talked about it, drove the conversation. If the sequel that's coming next year does this exact same kind of window, then we're going to be having a very different conversation.
Yeah, I think if this does well, they might try something with Extraction. I'll be interested to see what they do. I won't go to see it in a theater because the reason I enjoyed Extraction is I could play video games on my phone while I watched it and not lose the plot. But you can't do it in a theater. But that's one point of data. I'm not saying that proves anything. All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
I like real estate. It's all about location. Under Surveillance.
Let's just get this one out of the way. Super Mario Brothers hits theaters April 7th. The first teaser came out during New York Comic-Con showing the 3D animation. And our first chance to hear, and therefore most of the internet criticize, Chris Pratt's voice as Mario.
Disclaimer, I didn't hate it. It looks fine.
I think it looks, look, Illumination doing a lot of surprisingly great work. People have lost their mind for Despicable Me, and particularly the Minions. So how does this one end up? I think it could do really well. I think it could end up being a movie that plays to adults and kids.
Not my Mario. Look, I'm not saying I need full Martinet all 90 minutes. I don't need the whole spiel, but I need something more than Chris Pratt just talking like himself. I need a middle ground between these two.
You barely
things.
got any dialogue, so it's hard to tell if that's the way it could be the whole way through, or it could be just one of the more lackadaisical lines that he delivered. Who knows?
I do think part of it is, I don't think it was a winning scenario for whoever had that role, because the truth is Mario doesn't actually have a voice. He has a voice
Wrong.
tagline.
No.
How about
It's
the
completely
canonical voice actor who's played Mario in a billion things?
but-
And
Just
is
say
in
he
this movie doing other voices.
Yeah, you're telling me that wouldn't be a win? I suppose you hated the fact that Optimus Prime and the first Transformers was voiced by
we're just gonna get
Optimus
lines of
Prime.
dialogue.
Getting a completely wrong person, an
I have a
entirely
dog in
different
this fight.
person.
I think this movie's garbage. Next story.
I'm just upset that they didn't get an actual plumber to play him. A second season of Good Omens is coming to Amazon Prime Video this summer. As Deadline puts it, Michael Sheen and David Tennant are back as Aziraphale and Crowley, respectively. After helping to save the world from the apocalypse, they'll return to solve a mystery that takes in all of heaven and hell. Brian, Good Omens was based on a book. The entire season that we saw was based on that entire book. There is no more book.
Yeah.
How are we going to do season 2?
Well, last time we talked about this, we heard the news that they were going to try a season 2, and we were speculating when we watched the show, which I think we both liked. But having run dry of the canonical book that it was based on, I was trying to think of another series that kept going a season after the books ended.
How'd that go? Was it a smashing success?
Both sides were angry, so I suppose it's a good compromise. Was literally what they did and said on the show.
You're talking about Game of Thrones, of course.
Yes.
Here's the difference, if there is a difference, and I don't know if it's enough of a difference, but Good Omens has Neil Gaiman involved as an executive producer and more of a showrunner. He's not the showrunner, but he's more involved than George R. R. Martin says he was involved in the latter couple of seasons of Game of Thrones. Now, that came out in a House of the Dragon junket. He says, like, I don't know, they never talked to me for those last couple of seasons. Maybe he's just trying to distance himself from them. Certainly was good press for House of the Dragon to say that. Gaiman is very much involved, as he was in the first season and will be in the second season.
Yes. But unfortunately, Terry Pratchett is no longer with us. So whether or not it maintains the voice, he was ill at the first. Gaiman says that he and Pratchett broke the story for a second book, and he's working off of that. Sounds similar to George R. R. Martin gave us the notes. I know. So, but it's Gaiman doing it, not two people who aren't Gaiman. Gaiman, he worked a lot on a book that he was entirely the author of, made into a TV show, American Gods, right?
And The Sandman.
Huh. Well, Sandman I haven't seen yet, so I can't say anything. But I can say, to American Gods.
Yeah, but he wasn't. Yeah, but like part of his gripe with American Gods, he wasn't as heavily involved with American Gods until later.
Huh.
This also like a great time for this to come out. Like there are a lot of shows out there right now about middle-aged guys having gay relationships, and this is just another one to throw on the pile. And it's perfect timing for it. It's perfect timing for it.
Wait,
but
is that sarcasm?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No.
We've talked about two of them on this program. Well,
no. What I thought you were, if it was sarcasm, I was thinking your point was that it's a crowded field that they're entering in. But you're saying, no. There's a movement.
It's a big time for this between the pirate show and the vampire show and the other vampire show going on. Like, like it's a perfect time for this.
I guess that could work against it being good as making it sound opportunistic, right? So you don't want it to be like, we're just doing it because it's a middle-aged gay men story.
Well,
you want it to be a good story.
One way to know for sure, and that's to just decide what's true and never really investigate or watch it.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, no, that's it.
I've heard
if I've learned anything from everyone else on the internet, that is definitely the right thing to do.
I'm definitely going to give it a try. I really enjoyed the first season. It'll be interesting.
Oh, me too. I'm actually really excited about this, and I think it'll probably be pretty good. I don't know if it'll catch lightning in the bottle the way the first season did, but it doesn't have to for me to enjoy it. So I'm good with that. Yeah. Speaking of trying to catch lightning in starships. Paramount released 3 trailers for 3 Star Trek series. Star Trek Prodigy is going to resume its first season almost a year after it began first season. So October 27th, Ronnie Cox will be reprising
National
his...
treasure. Ronnie Cox is amazing.
Settle down.
Just remember the bad guy from Total Recall and RoboCop. He's amazing.
He is. He's in this, reprising his role from the next generation of Captain Edward Jellicoe, who will now be an admiral because it's in the future. Kate Mulgrew, of course, returns as holographic Janeway, but also as the real Admiral Janeway. A trailer for the 5th season of Star Trek Discovery is out, showing a more action settled plot line for the show within the universe. Captain Burnham is out to find a treasure that contains power. No firm date on that, just 2023. And the showpiece, a long trailer for the final season of Star Trek Picard, showed off more of the returning Next Generation cast members, introduced a couple of new cameo appearances. We're going to get to see Lore, Data's evil twin. We're going to get to see Moriarty, who was a self-aware hologram that escaped from the holodeck in a TNG series episode. It all comes back February 16th next year. Brian, will you be watching?
Merrill, did you dive into Picard or
I did dive into Picard, and okay. I have. Hold on. So
this is my new favorite show. Merrill twists about Picard.
Season 1's fine. Season 2 is pretty good. I have hope for season 3 because it's the most one owned by the new showrunner Terry Matalas, who I'm a big fan of. But watching this trailer, I felt a lot like Bryce watching Lower Decks because I have barely seen most of TNG. So, and a lot of that trailer felt like
insider fan service.
Yeah, canon. I like season 2. I know who Q is because I watched Voyager, and Q popped up in Voyager once in a while. So I was familiar with Q. I have no idea who Lore is. I have no idea who the dude in the hat was either with the old gun. I guess Moriarty was his name, so maybe he's Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes books. I have no idea.
It's a Next Generation episode that is simulating Sherlock Holmes, and then Moriarty becomes self-aware. I remember him getting out of the holodeck and wandering around somehow. Beatmaster says he just became self-aware, so I could be wrong about that.
No, actually, the reason he became self-aware is because Captain Geordi LaForge, or Geordi LaForge, Commander Geordi LaForge, said for Data he told the holodeck to program something that will actually fool Data in
I remember that.
the style of Sherlock Holmes. And so when Moriarty becomes self-aware that he's in a ship and actually becomes a villain and figures stuff out, they're like, who gave that order? And there's like Commander Geordi LaForge, which makes sense that Geordi LaForge would show up because he's the one that created this whole mess and this bad guy to begin with. All right, see, this is the...
But did he get out of the holodeck? That was the part I couldn't remember.
Let me pitch this, Bryce. What about all of that tedium I just gave you, plus also in the trailer, Worf, the famously uncontrollable raging battle beast, says, I'm a pacifist now. Now do I have you?
No.
Okay, well.
So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited for it. It looks fun, but it felt very, you better know your TNG canon. So I don't know about that.
I don't know. They're showing it at New York Comic Con, so maybe we picked the things that'll make the fans at New York Comic Con go crazy. And hopefully they explain it more. So,
and then to answer your regarding the season 1 issue of Prodigy, they had a massive order when they first started the show. We're working our way through that season 1, but it's that. We ordered a bunch of episodes at once, but we're splitting them all up. But it's all technically contractually. No,
I get that. It's weird on the consumer end when you're like, this is still season 1. I'm like, really? It's been a year. Like, could you just call it a short season 1 and call this season 2? Like, that'd be fine with me. All right, let's get to things we've had our eyes on. Merrill, what have you been watching?
This little indie show. Maybe it may have heard of it, called Law and Order.
That's on broadcast TV, which is the minor leagues for streaming. Yeah.
Yes, but specifically though the new one. So they rebooted it earlier this year. They called the rebooted one that came back season 21. So now we just started season 22. And it's great. And the thing I've been saying, and it will get a laugh in this room, I hope. It's so formulaic that it's refreshing.
Mm.
Like it's just
A
so
laugh a minute.
No. No, stop. No, I'm here to defend you, Merrill. I think it is a classic procedural. Like Law and Order has always been the definition of a weekly broadcast primetime procedural. And to just, I assume what you're saying is they're embracing that fully, and you're all there for it.
They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're giving us just really good Law and Order. Maybe the best Law and Order we've gotten in 20 years. And I will say the best part is is one of the new ADAs for this year is played by Hugh Dancy, who everyone in this room will know as Will Graham from Hannibal. And that man is just chewing the scenery. He's having the time of his life. He has all the monologues. It's wonderful. I love watching him. Like, it's great. So new Law and Order. I just everyone just start at season 21 and just keep going. It's absolute. Oh, the other funny part, I'm seeing his face here. Sam Waterston plays the DA of New York City, and he pops in every episode for like 1 to 2 scenes, and you know that what's happening behind the scenes is he's just showing up for a day and shooting like 5 episodes at a time and then leaving, and I love it.
Well, and it's a connection, right? Everybody associates him with Law and Order.
He's been the DA.
So, yeah.
He's been the DA forever. Like
Exactly. I don't know. It sounds like reboots are being done right these days, because Quantum Leap is getting rave reviews as well on NBC.
Just got renewed. They just ordered 6 more episodes of that.
Wow.
Yeah. Brian, what about you? What you been watching?
My daughter's back from college, and so the whole family wanted to watch something the whole family could watch, so we watched the most recent Scooby-Doo, and I was actually confused when I went to go rent it because the cover art looked like it was from 1968. And then we started watching it, and the animation style looks like it's from 1968. And I really enjoyed the embracing of the retro stuff. The conceit, this is a spoiler for the first act, is all of the bad guys from all of the classic original run of Scooby-Doo were all buying their costumes from the same costume maker. and then they put the costume maker behind bars, and there's nothing to do. They have to solve boring, non-spooky crimes. And then Fred makes a wish. Is like, I wish for a spooky crime. And he gets his wish.
Amazing. I want to give a shout out to the return of Dairy Girls on Netflix. This is a Channel 4 show that, if you're in the UK, aired a while ago, but it finally showed up on Netflix. With the latest 3rd season. This is a delightful and charming show. If you want your comedy with ridiculousness and a little sense of historical tragedy in the background, watch Dairy Girls. They do a fantastic job of splitting the difference and showing a really farcical, silly high school girls and one guy who's in the girls' school, which is a hilarious running joke. And in the background of the troubles in the 90s and the years leading up to the historic peace agreement that happened in 98. But you're gonna have a smile, and yet it's got some reality to it because of the background that they set it in. It's great cast, great comedy. Go check it out on Netflix, Dairy Girls, if you haven't watched it already. Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, I got a pick for you guys. I really want to tell you guys about The White Lotus, especially because season 2 is coming up in a few weeks. This is on HBO from Mike White of Enchanted or School of Rock. He wrote School of Rock. This is an anthology series. It is part satire, part mystery, and it follows the dysfunctions of upper crust elite folks staying at a 5-star resort. And each, at least in the first season, each day is an episode of the show. And so you kind of get these sort of natural arcs as every day becomes more surreal, a little, you start to separate yourself from, say, normal people problems. And it ends up being this really interesting dark comedy about I don't know, very, very, very well-off people And whether or not they're realistic or not is for the viewer to decide. But I think it's really fantastic. It's a little bit of a slow burn, but season 1 was really great, and it was that season 1 like starts off as a murder mystery, heads up, and by the end of the season, you're like, weren't we a murder mystery? And the show goes, yes, we were. Let's do the murder mystery.
The greatest thing about that was halfway through the season, I'm like, man, when are we going to ever learn something more about this murder mystery? By the end of the season, when they revealed the murder mystery, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, I'm so invested in the rest of the story that, you know what, the murder mystery is great, but that's not even why I was watching anymore. Yeah. It's amazing.
And if you did see the first season and you haven't heard much about the second season, it is anthology. So this new season will be in Italy, and the only returning character will be Jennifer Coolidge's character, as well as I believe the man that she meets in that first season. Everybody else is new, star-studded cast.
He's involved in BLM.
That's right. You know,
Bureau of Land Management.
Bureau of Land Management. So that's The White Lotus. That's on HBO, and it's on HBO Max. There's 6 episodes in that first season, and season 2 is going to start airing weekly on October 30th. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, please email it to us, cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
All right, Brian, listen, you really need to finally be honest with people about where you get your computers.
Well, I get them on loan, and I'm indentured to our friends over at Doghouse Systems.
They love that.
But you can help me work off my terrible, terrible, crippling debt to Doghouse Systems by buying a Doghouse System at doghousesystems.com/rogue. Spell it right, ROGUE. You'll get an upgrade to your computer for free, and you'll help me work off my crippling debt.
Listen, folks, this is a win-win, because not only will Brian get out of that, but you'll get an amazing computer too. Like it's a really good computer. Otherwise, he would have just ran away from them instead of trying to pay them back.
It ain't none of these bargain basement, dollar computers. You get it Radio Shack. Those are the good
Dollar
stuff.
Computer Club.
They love all of this. I love all of this.
No, unmatched customer service. You guys have heard me talk about it.
Anything else that they should?
I can only muster so much genuine enthusiasm, Bryce, and that's why I'm saving it for the fact that on this week's Mono Rogue episode, we learned how to use a hammer to smash a coin into a gorgeous ring from the incredibly talented magician and ring artist, Alex Rangel. And he made a promise that between now and Christmas, he can put maybe 100 together, realistically more like 50. But you can have an actual Morgan silver dollar handcrafted by Alex, and it'll have a Maker's Mark stamp in there with the Mono Rogue logo and his initials on there, so you know it's genuine. There's one option that's a golden dollar coin made into a ring, and another one that's a actual almost an ounce of silver made into a ring. It's awesome.
Where should they go to get
them? Scamstuff.com. Thank you. Oh, what would I do without you, Bryce?
My engagement ring was a quarter that had been made into a ring. Because I kept joking with Eileen that she got an engagement ring. Why didn't I get one? And I thought they were really cool. We bought them at a friend's shop. It lasted decades, and it was just a quarter. I can't imagine how long these dollar coins are like that. That's solid. That's a good looking ring, man.
It's much pricier to go with the Morgan silver dollar, but man, it feels like it's thick and heavy. And the one he gave me only fits on my middle finger, but I get to wrap it on the table like I'm Winston Churchill. It's amazing.
That's awesome. All right, let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
I'm going to go through this slow. Because it's not simple.
Yeah, you might as well get rid of that 1 minute countdown, Bryce. Okay, here we go.
The Disney price rises announced in August went into effect Monday for Hulu. So Monday, October 10th, which is actually when we're recording this, but you may be listening to it later. Let's try to break them down. Hulu with ads, so that's the base Hulu, goes from $6.99 to $7.99, just $1. Hulu without ads, that's the one where you pay so that the pre-rolls and the interstitials go away, $12.99 to $14.99. It goes up $2, all right? That's really the headline here. Where it gets complicated is the bundles. The bundle price isn't going up until later this year. So the bundles stay the same right now, but when it goes up later this year, the one with Hulu with ads will go from $13.99 to $14.99. The bundle with Hulu without ads won't go up. it'll stay at $19.99 a month. And the bundles that include Hulu with live TV are also not getting a price rise. They're $69.99 and $74.99 for the one without ads. Here's where it gets extra complicated. The version of Disney Plus with ads arrives December 8th. So the version of Disney Plus with ads will be $7.99. The version without ads will be $10.99. And at that point, they're going to add another bundle.
Oh my
so you'll
God.
You'll have a bundle that has Hulu with ads, but Disney without ads. And you'll have a bundle that has Hulu with ads and Disney with ads. The bundle that has Hulu and Disney with ads will be $12.99 a month.
Oh my God.
And then they're going to add a Hulu Plus live TV bundle at $82.99 that has Disney Plus and Hulu without ads.
Hey, Brian, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
You still think HBO Max had the worst branding of all the streaming services?
No. Disney Plus at least is Disney. I just want to know, just stop talking. How do I buy an annual pass? I will throw money at this to make it simple.
Yeah. And I'm not even bringing in, there's annual rates that give you a bit of a discount for all of these. I'm not even bringing that in.
Oh,
Jesus.
I'll be honest, though. If you are like, I want this, it's actually very easy to be like, okay, that's going to cost you $14.99 a month. It's when you try to give people all the options that it just the menu just keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah. Meanwhile, gather round, children. You may not know this, but there was a company once upon a time called Slingbox, and it used to be controversial. It was a hardware device that let you stream your home TV to yourself over the internet, straight to your cell phone. It was like a DVR. Streaming has made it unnecessary, and now very few people use it, but Dish has kept the services running until now. Starting November 9th, 2022, existing Slingboxes will stop working with the Slingbox service. Fun fact, before we used Skype, the very first episodes of NSFW show were streamed via a Slingbox over to the Twit cottage.
Nice.
I once handled the original prototype Slingbox and had the founders of Slingbox look me in the eye and say, do not lose this. Because I was taking it from their booth to the CNET stage to do a video. And they were like, I'm going to let you take this, but you cannot break it. You cannot lose it. You have to bring it back. And I always loved that they trusted me to do that. It went off without incident. I used a Slingbox for years. I remember sitting in the stands at Pac-Bell Park watching a Giants game in the middle of the day, watching the broadcast of the game I was watching over Slingbox on my laptop. I had taken my ThinkPad into the stadium. Of course, now you can just stream on your phone everywhere you go. But yeah, I have fond feelings for Slingbox. So it's the end of an era that those.
So I missed
my
one question. I missed the boat on the whole Slingbox era. But I'm curious because I swear I heard once in the early days that one of the big things was you couldn't change the channel on it or something. Someone else had to do it for you.
No, you could do an infrared blaster.
Yeah, there was an IR blaster.
Yeah, there were some things later on where companies started to come for them, and they're like, "Oh, we're not gonna be able to stream this particular thing," and then they went back on it, and then there was "Well, we can't have an app in the App Store, but we can." There were I don't even remember all the controversies, but yeah, there were some for a while where they had to disable certain situations. I can't recall what all of them were.
Yeah,
but when it launched, you could do everything. There were no restrictions when they first launched.
It was basically a transitional device to get us from where we were to where we are now.
Yeah. And now its box has slung. James Cameron wanted to do variable frame rates for Avatar: The Way of the Water. Variable frame rates, meaning different scenes would have different frames per second. He wanted to film the show at 48 frames per second when there was a cool 3D episode scene that would benefit from the higher frame rate. But then he knew people, if they saw 48 frames per second, would get that weird motion smoothing feel. So he wanted to go back to more familiar 24 frames per second when he wanted it to look like a film. Theaters can only show one frame rate at a time. So Cameron could have either started a campaign to upgrade the firmware at projector software at theaters to handle a variable frame rate codec, because there's software that could do that, or he could do what he did, which is encode the whole movie at 48 frames per second, But when he wants to show scenes in 24p, he just doubled the frames. The software doesn't know the difference. He just shows 2 of every frame, and your human eye just sees 24 frames per second.
Yeah. So, Bryce, it sounded like you had a take on this.
Oh yeah, this is not uncommon. I mean, this is what you would do if you were merging multiple sources of media, right? Of different frame rates, you would probably just either do them at the top level or a multiple of it. This is similar to what Netflix's Drive to Survive show does this. When you watch it, the Netflix logo looks really weird, all the light trails coming in, because it's super smooth. It's a high frame rate that they do that show in, because some of the footage that they use is high frame rate. And so they put the whole show out in high frame rate, but then a lot of it is the cinematic looking 24 frames per second. And then you get the real nice slow motion footage, and that's all super high frame rate. It looks all smooth. And so it's not uncommon. I mean, that is what you would do to merge frame rates like that.
Well, and also this feels a little bit to me like when I went to go watch The Dark Knight, I had no memory of which scenes were in IMAX and which scenes were just widescreen.
Yeah.
And that is because they saved the IMAX moments for high intensity moments where I was in the story all the way. And I suspect that if he's judicious about his use of the 48 frames per second, this could be the best case for that we've seen to date.
Look, never betting against James Cameron. I know the rules, right? That said, I've never seen a 48 frames per second anything I have liked ever. And I've seen them all.
Lies, you've played a video game, you've seen a sports thing.
No, but in scripted media, I have never seen one where I've gone, this made it so much better. Hobbit, couldn't stand it.
Yeah, but no, we're well aware of the perils of it. But yeah, I think this may be the only way to make it work.
I'm curious, because if it's done right, it'll be like The Dark Knight, where you'll be like, yeah, I didn't notice it.
TV makers are sensing the growing market share of platforms like Roku and Fire TV, and they are opening up. Last week, LG said it will let other TV makers use WebOS, and now Samsung has said the same thing for its, is it Tizen or Tizen?
Tizen
OS TV platform. Expect Samsung's OS to show up on TV sets from, is it Aka or Aka? RCA and others in Europe, New Zealand, and Australia.
Yeah, smart. A little late to the game. Not sure it's going to work as well for them. I think they might get elbowed out of the marketplace, but they should do this. They absolutely should do this.
Well, as Roku and Fire TV become, I assume you have to pay a license fee to use those OSs. So as they become pricier and pricier to acquire, if you're a lower stakes, manufacturer like say RCA, having access to this ability so you can raise the price. So you're not just selling a dumb TV. Right. This having some kind of other option from a Samsung's not exactly a smaller brand, but in this space, they are the smaller brand, is very useful and necessary.
A few more items to note here. HBO Max will release a Valentine's special version of Harley Quinn this February. HBO Max released a trailer for the 4th season of Titans coming out November 3rd. Netflix released a full trailer for Wednesday with a peek at the part Christina Ricci is going to play. It arrives November 23rd, and no, Ricci doesn't play Wednesday. Amazon released a recap of season 1 of Wheel of Time with a sneak peek at season 2. No date on that yet, coming out sometime next year. BBC announced the final episode of Doctor Who with Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor will come out on October 23rd. Whittaker will be replaced by Ncuti Gatwa, who will take over as the Doctor when Russell T Davies returns to running the show next year. HBO Max released a trailer for a 10-episode series called Velma, centered on Velma from Scooby-Doo, with Mindy Kaling as Velma's voice. That's coming in 2023.
Boy, was I predisposed to, just upon reading that one line, already decide that, oh my God, why do we have to mine backstories for everything? Blah, 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 blah. But then I hit play on that trailer, and man, oh man, did they masterfully flip me on my head by having Velma writing an angry HBO Max. Don't change anything old. It's dumb when you do that. I hate you, sincerely, Velma. And then it's about Judy Jetson, and then it cuts to a reimagined version of Velma. Right at the moment. Bill, I don't know if you heard it because I was too busy laughing. But I only on my second viewing did I hear her mutter, well, at least she's still white. To the Chitty Chats and stuff, which was amazing.
And the new Velma is dark skinned.
Yes. Yes. So I wanted to see if I could replicate the experiment by telling Bonnie there's going to be a Velma series. And she goes, ugh. And I was like, well, watch this. And then I played it for her and she was like, I'm in. That was perfect. And then somebody overheard and said, oh yeah, no, I think they're gonna like dirty it up. They're gonna Harley Quinn this. I'm like, with Velma? He's like, yeah, there's like nudity and cursing and stuff. I was like, are you sure about that? He's like, yeah, I'll show it. And so he begins to search Velma series nudity. And it's in her. And then I'm like, well, now you're looking up porn, but at least it's on the work computer.
Thank goodness for that.
Speaking of Harley Quinn, give me a Valentine's Day special. I wish all streaming shows did more holiday specials and just one-offs like holiday specials, like. But yeah, give me the Harley Quinn Valentine's Day special. 100% in for that. Yeah. Want it.
100% agree. I really like the House of the Dragon Thanksgiving special that was on this week. Now, dispatches from the front. Regarding Amazon's 4 new products, writes James C. Smith, Brian is right that I no longer need an MP3 player, camera, pager, and GPS on phones now that Apple makes iPhones. So why does Apple make an iPhone 14 Pro Max, an iPhone 14 Pro, an iPhone 14 Mini, and an iPhone SE, and an iPad? Can't Apple put all this in one device, Brian?
Yeah, okay, look, I concede.
Sark Mark from James.
I fully concede the point. I was having a grandpa moment because I don't live far enough in that ecosystem where I'm just like, why do they have so many fires and echoes and Amazons? Alexa, play Jurassic Park.
The first one.
The good one. No, so I got I was having a grandpa moment. You're right.
Okay, yeah, no, and it's, James' sarcasticness aside, he wrote, can't wait for Netflix Plus and Disney Plus Plus.
I will say that, man, keep those emails coming. We were a little bit light on this week, but chime in on anything over at cordkillers@gmail.com. We really do read every single one of those, and it helps us out tremendously to get counterpoints so that we don't get caught in an echo chamber.
Echo chamber. Hey, Merrill Barr. Where are you these days, and what do you have to tell? What do you have to say for yourself, the people out there?
Oh, what a great thing to ask!
Mario's voice doesn't have a voice.
I'm sorry, we're losing a connection here. It's really hit or miss.
Disinformation in the pipes.
So, as per usual, twitter.com/Merrill Barr, MERRILLBARR is where you can find all the good stuff, everything I do. And I still am in a mode where I can't talk about some things I'm doing right now, but one day I will be able to.
There will be cool things coming from Merrill Barr. You'll find them out on his Twitter. Remember, all the best names have double consonants. Merrill Barr. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack. Also on diamondclub.tv, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
I'm more a fan of double vowels. Brushwood. Hey, Tom Merritt, what's going on?
I'm just hanging out here watching this scroll go by. What are you doing?
Trying to set up a bit where we thank our beautiful, beautiful patrons, all these wonderful names.
I'm sorry, I'm too distracted looking at these beautiful, beautiful patron names going by. Look at that one. I mean, if you wanted to be one of these people, patreon.com/cordkillers would be the place to go.
I mean, they're scratching our itch, like, because we're addicted.
As long as it's consensual, like,
we're addicted to their money.
And love. Might as well face it.
Well, God damn it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.